The Washington Post recently wrote an article about Newsmax and how we've handled the 2020 presidential election. We have been very clear about our position and the reasons for taking that position. This article featured prominently one of the smartest guys and nicest guys, I will add, in the entire building here. The host of American Agenda, Bob Sellers, our friend. He is with us. Bob, good morning. We've got some quotes from this article that I wanted to kind of take our viewers through here. The first one, it said, on Newsmax's American Agenda, which followed Bachman's show, host Bob Sellers seemed to treat Biden's victory as an unsettled issue, saying that people are waiting with bated breath for the results of the process and asserting that there are still some outstanding cases of irregularity. Bob, I know you want to react to this.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I'm not a doctor. And I should make that clear, even when I say these things, Rob. When you say there are cases of irregularity outstanding, that's why the Senate had a hearing about them yesterday with Senator Johnson. So that's a fact. And then the other thing is when you say we're waiting with bated breath, as if there was something wrong with that or inaccurate about that. Even MSNBC said this is a normally mundane process. But in the Washington Post itself, they had links to states across the country that were going through the process. I don't know about you, Rob. I've never actually watched the electoral voting, where they put the ballots in the box or whatever process that state. I watched 4 of them, including Michigan, by the way, where there had been concerns that there might be violence because a particular representative from there couldn't rule out violence. So they locked down the state capitol as they were doing. I don't know how you would describe that, but I feel comfortable saying, well, people are watching with bated breath because we don't know exactly how this turns out. Well, and that's what I was saying. So it was accurate.
Yeah, I think we remember the 2000 election, Bush v. Gore, and we're talking 537 votes. The process was a little bit more civil, at least when it came to how the media handled it and covered it. We know that things down in Palm Beach, there was protests and that sort of thing, but the process seemed a lot more civil then. It might just be revisionist history in my mind. But here's another quote from this Washington Post article. A Republican congressman, former congressman from Ohio, appeared on Sellers' show and talked up the possibility that a member of the House of Representatives and U.S. Senate could file a written objection to the certification process during a joint session on January 6th to finalize the results.
Yeah. It's kind of the way it works. First, they do the votes, and then in the House and the Senate, they can object. And if they do object, then they're supposed to go in on both sides, and they're supposed to debate it. This is the process. And what I pointed out with our guest was he was making the point that that's a process, which is absolutely true. And some people are hoping that this is where the president might actually end up winning. But I was pointing out that with the House of Representatives, with the Speaker being a Democrat, it was probably unlikely to succeed. And again, this is a discussion that we're having as far as what is the process, how is it likely to unfold. And that was another case. What's the problem exactly? They were writing the article as if we were doing something wrong in the way we were approaching this.
And we've been, Newsmax is the only network that's doing this. Our position right now, to be clear, Newsmax is referring to Joe Biden as the president-elect, but we are still following all these legal challenges. And of course, we will probably be the only ones that will do so as long as there are legal challenges to follow. One more clip that I pulled here, Bob. This is a quote. During one segment when Washington Times writer Tim Constantine criticized the president and his team for continuing to argue that the election is fraudulent without sufficient evidence in a bid to stay politically relevant, Sellers gently chastised him. Tim, it's kind of strange that you say that. What's your reaction?
Yeah, that's not what I was saying was strange. What was strange is that what our guest was suggesting is that months from now, say in July, President Trump would be relatively irrelevant. And I thought that that was strange because this is somebody that came to Washington trying to drain the swamp. And that attitude from around the country is pretty commonly held. So it seemed to me strange somebody getting over 70 million votes in an election would be irrelevant, especially that quickly. So I was questioning that, which, by the way, it's almost like he was questioning. If I'm doing it gently, I try to show respect to all of our guests, but also that I got criticism from those on the right that I wasn't hard enough on them.
Yeah, here's my thing. And when I read the article, I thought to myself, well, they're trying to sell newspapers down there in Washington. The Post has been struggling like every other print newspaper in the country. Why not talk about Newsmax? All right,
That's
got
fine
a lot
with
of
me. We
people's
want him
attention.
to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.